friends, it's Christy. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing another Copic coloring video, and I'm going to be coloring one specific critter in multiple different ways. And I have done quite a few of these videos in the past. We started out with gorillas and then moved on to elephants and foxes. Then we did a whole bunch of cats and a whole bunch of dogs. We did mice in 8 different ways and hedgehogs in 6 different ways. And then our previous video was squirrels. And I wanted to do something, since it is October, that was a bit seasonal. And so I decided to go with bats for this month. So we are going to be coloring bats using the Lawn Fawn Fantastic Friends stamp set. And I've stamped that out 6 different times, so I can show you 6 different color combinations that you can use on your Halloween cards. So I'm going to start out with the one that I think is the most basic and the color that comes to mind for most of us when we think of bats, and that is black. And I'm going to do that using some cool grays, although you could use any of the gray families and I think that they would look great. When I want something to really look black, I tend to reach for the cool grays. So I'm using C1, C3, C5, and C7. If you wanted your bat to look even darker, you could go as far as the C9. But I like to keep things on a little bit of a softer edge, and so I'm starting with the C7, laying in my shadows with that, blending out with the C5. Then I'll come in with the C3 and also put a little bit of that in the inner ear. Bring that down on the wings, especially the area down below where that skin is stretched taut over the bone structure of the wings. And then I'm going to fill in with C1 so we get a nice highlight. So I think that is a pretty typical basic black bat. And I will just go ahead and jot those numbers down right below it so that you can color along with me if you'd like and keep a little chart for yourself. Then I am going to move on to kind of a softer gray. I think the warm grays are also nice for bats. It gives them a completely different look, but I think it is quite nice, especially if you wanted something that was more of like just a softer color palette. So I'm using W00, W1, W3, and W5. And for all of these bats, I'm going to place my shadows in the exact same areas, and same with my highlights, so that you can really compare and contrast and see which ones work best for you. So you might find a new go-to combination in this video, but you might also just find a new combo to try out on occasion if you're creating a card with a different color palette or wanting to match some pattern paper, or just want to go with something that is not what you typically reach for. So hopefully this video will help you out with that. Another color of bat that I don't typically think of, but of course exists in reality, is brown. And so I decided to go with some richer browns. I went with E21, E23, E25, and E27. And again, there are lots of different shades of browns that you could go with. I think the E40s would be really nice for bats as well, because they're more of a desaturated, kind of like a spookier brown. They're great for the fall. But for this, I just wanted to show you like a warm, rich brown, and so that just gives you an idea. This is in no way going to be a comprehensive list. It's just going to give you a jumping off point, and there are definitely lots more combos that you could try out. But again, I'm just coloring in the same way, using all 4 shades on the head and belly and wings, and then just the 2 lightest shades on the inner ears. And this was actually my very first time coloring a bat brown, but I really like how it turned out. So I'm going to write down that combo for you, and we will move on to bat number 4. So we've done a few bats so far in combos that I think most people would think of. And so now I want to show you 3 different combos that maybe you haven't thought of before. And so I am starting with some very desaturated blue-violet shades. I'm using BV23, BV25, and BV29, and you can see that those are so desaturated they almost look similar to the cool grays that I've used above. But what's great about these BV shades is that they can transition really beautifully into purple and blue tones, and that is exactly what we're going to do for the rest of these bats. I think it's fun to give them a little bit of something unexpected. Like with this first one, we're going to add in a little V91. Any light warm purple would work, but we are just going to blend that right into that BV23 and smooth out the transition between those shades. And it almost makes it look as if the sky is glowing. So this would be the perfect combo to use if you were doing a purple night sky, and it would almost look like the bat is actually black, but the sky is reflecting on the shiny surface of its fur. And if you don't own the BV20 markers, not to worry. I'm actually going to have a video on Monday where I show you how to color bats with this kind of purpley cast to them using markers that most people typically have in their collection. So stay tuned for that. I'm going to move on to bat number 5, and we are going to change it only slightly. I want to do purple again, but in more of a cool toned purple. And I wanted to show it to you in a slightly softer tone by taking away the BV29, which adds a lot of depth, and adding in that BV20, which is going to help transition nicely into that BV01, which I'm going to add to it. So I'm coloring it in the exact same way, just using one shade lighter for each of those steps. And then my 4th marker shade is going to be the BV01, which you can see just blends beautifully with those other BV shades. And it just gives it just a little bit of a cast, not quite as much as the previous one, but it's still something a little bit different and unique. It definitely still looks different than the cool grays on their own up above. And so I'll just jot that combo down and we will move on to our final bat. And for this one, I am only going to switch out one marker shade. We're going to switch from having a cool purple cast to an aqua blue cast. So I am again keeping those same BV20 shades, BV20, BV23, and BV25, coloring it exactly the same as I did the previous one, but it's going to look completely different when I add in that final shade, which is BG quadruple 0. And having that BV20 in there, which is so soft, just really helps to transition into these other light shades. I did a whole monochromatic card a couple years ago for Halloween using this exact color combination and distress oxides to match, and it's still to this day one of my favorite Halloween cards I've ever created. I think it's so much fun to give them that little bit of glow from whatever color sky that you are creating, especially since when we do bat cards, they're usually involving a large moon, a full moon, or some other size stage of the moon, but so it makes sense to have that little bit of glow on there. So I am going to throw in some rosy cheeks on all of these bats just to kind of bring them a little bit more to life. And I decided to go with cooler pinks than I typically use, since most of these bats were in cool tones. Not all of them, but most of them. So I used RV10 and RV11. I also colored in the inner ears with that. I did want those cheeks to be a little bit brighter than they turned out, so I'm going to go back in with a second layer of that RV11 right over top of what I've already done. And then there were a couple of them that it still didn't show up that well on, so I'm going to bring in RV13 for those. I'm going to do the brown one and then the 2 purple toned bats. I added a little bit of that into the inner ear as well, just to help it match with the shade of the cheeks, and then blend it out. Normally I would also add a black gel pen over the eyes and a white gel pen over the teeth, just to make those really bright and shiny again. But I know not everybody has those, so I decided to leave it plain for this video, since it's more of an instructional video where I want everybody to be able to see the results that they can get with the supplies that they have, hopefully. But anyway, that is going to finish off this video. I know there's lots of other combos that you could use for bats, and if you have a favorite one that I didn't share, please leave it down in the comments below, and that way everybody can hopefully see that and maybe even add more to their color charts if they're creating along with me. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please be sure to hit that like button and leave me a comment down below. Also leave a comment and let me know which critter I should do next. I would love to hear from you. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and ring that notification bell if you want to be alerted when I post new videos. The stamp set that I use will be listed down below in the description bar in case you'd like to pick it up for yourself. And thank you so much for watching. I really hope you had a good one, and I'll see you soon in another video. Bye-bye.